Hölgyeim és uraim! Jó napot kívánok, hölgyeim és uraim! Winkler Nóra vagyok. Szeretettel köszöntjük Önöket. Nagyon örülünk, hogy ilyen sokan kíváncsiak erre a mai eseményre. Legutóbb 2 héttel ezelőtt találkoztunk, kicsit hasonló körülmények között, akkor természetes fény világította meg ezt a termet, szóval kevésbé volt dramatikus. Azon a keddi délutánon a Kentridge kiállítás megnyitóját arra is használtuk, hogy őt egy kicsit alaposabban bemutassuk, és a művészete iránt érdeklődőknek tulajdonképpen bevezessük őt. Az a délután György Péter kiállítás megnyitó beszédével indult, mert hogy ő Magyarországon egyedülálló mélységben ismeri a Kentridge életművet. Utána pedig egy kerekasztal beszélgetés volt itt a színpadon, amin részt vett ő, Jákfalvi Magdolna színházteoretikus, és a Kovásznai Kutatóműhely vezetője, Iványi Bitter Brigitta, aki a Kentridge kiállításnak is, és különös tekintettel ennek a mai eseménynek a kurátora. Azért volt színházi témájú ez a kerekasztal beszélgetés, mert egy tulajdonképpen csodálatos véletlennek köszönhetően ennek a hétnek a végén, pénteken és szombaton este a Trafó ettől a kezdeményezéstől tulajdonképpen teljesen függetlenül magától bemutatja Kentridge első világhírű Wojciech rendezését. Tehát tulajdonképpen azt a darabot és Kentridge színházi munkáit is kicsit mélyebben megismerhette az a közönség ebből a kerekasztal beszélgetésből. Az, hogy ez a mai délutáni esemény megvalósult, abban vannak ilyen szerencsés véletlenek, vannak évtizedes barátságok, de elsősorban a Kovásznai Kutatóműhely 5 éves munkája, az arra irányuló kíváncsiság és figyelem, hogy a Kovásznai és a Kentridge életmű milyen rokonságokat mutathat. Ők ketten soha nem találkoztak, Kovásznai Budapesten élt és dolgozott a 60-as, 70-es évek Budapestjén, Kentridge pedig Dél-Afrikában a 80-as években indult. 2 autonóm, független, individuális művészről van szó, hasonló érzékenységgel, és mindkettejük pályáját meghatározta az a politikai környezet, amiben éltek és dolgoztak, de nincsenek éles párhuzamok, mint inkább ilyen érdekes hasonlóságok, amik kitűnő apropót adnak ennek a mai délutáni beszélgetésnek. Akkor 2 héttel ezelőtt már nagyon vártuk ezt a mai napot, hogy személyesen is találkozhassunk William Kentridge-dzsel, akiről a legegyszerűbben talán azt mondhatom, hogy egy kortárs világsztár, és nem csak a képzőművészeti életben, hanem színházi és opera területen egyaránt. A világ legjobb művészeti intézményeinek és azokkal dolgozott, említhetném New Yorkban a MoMA-t vagy a Metropolitant. Ha fellapoznánk az elmúlt évek vezető aukciós házainak a katalógusait, akkor láthatnánk, hogy nagyon komoly érdeklődést mutat a műkereskedelem is a munkái iránt, de ha máshonnan közelíteném meg, és itt egy kicsit megint visszatérek a 2 héttel ezelőtti eseményre, ahol több filmjét is megnézhettük itt együtt, akkor azt láthattuk, meg elsősorban tapasztalhattuk, hogy ő egy olyan művész, aki az élet nagy toposzaihoz nyúl, sorshoz, sorsfordulatokhoz, elváláshoz, szenvedélyhez, szenvedéshez, és olyan módon, amit persze intellektuálisan is megközelíthetünk, de az, hogy érzelmileg milyen gyorsan hat, az szerintem lenyűgöző volt. Én emlékszem arra a hangulatra itt a teremben, és mondjuk a saját érzéseimre is nagyon erősen emlékszem. Azt mondani, hogy egy nemzetközi kortárs világsztár, az sokakban idézhet föl ezt a hűvös, konceptuális világot. Hát ő nagyon nem ilyen művész, ő igazi, klasszikus művész, és emberként pedig nagyon közvetlen, nyitott, érdeklődő. Amikor elfogadta a budapesti meghívást, akkor az sem olyan volt, mint sokszor, amikor valaki egy másik országba, egy szakmai eseményre érkezik, és tulajdonképpen csak azt az útszakaszt ismeri, ami a repülőtértől a helyszínig tart, és utána vissza. Ő 4 teljes napot töltött itt Budapesten, és amennyit ez az idő enged arra, hogy az ember egy kicsit mélyebben meglássa ennek a városnak a művészeti közegét, hát ő ebben mindent megtett. Találkozott művészeti intézmények vezetőivel, ennek a közegnek a meghatározó figuráival, elment a Nemzeti Galériába, kisebb kortárs galériákat is meglátogatott, és még arra is volt ideje, hogy fiatal képzőművészekkel találkozzon. Aki beszélni fog vele a mai délutánon, ő Szántó András, aki a 80-as években ment ki New Yorkba, és egy minden szempontból lenyűgöző, példaértékű karriert futott be. Tanított a Columbia Egyetemen, a Sotheby's Institute of Arton, tanácsadó, a legjobb művészeti intézményekkel és azoknak dolgozik, tanár, a szövegeit a magyar szakma nagyon jól ismeri, sokan az egyetemi oktatásaikban is felhasználják az András kritikus szövegeit, úgyhogy ők ketten fognak beszélgetni ma délután hamarosan a színpadon, de mielőtt ők feljönnének, szeretném megkérni a Szépművészeti Múzeum főigazgatóját, Bán Lászlót, hogy köszöntse önöket.
Kedves William, kedves András, barátaink, hölgyeim és uraim! Hát különlegesen örömteli ez a mai nap számunkra, legfőképpen azért, mert itt van körünkben William Kentridge, akit már sokszorosan méltatott Nóra, és nem is szorul rá erre a méltatásra, hiszen valóban a köztünk élő legnagyobb képzőművészek egyike, és először jár Magyarországon, és rögtön egy Kentridge hetekbe csöppenhetett, ahogy Nóra is említette, hiszen kiállítás a Szépművészetiben, Wojciech előadás a Trafóban. És a mai este egy olyan különleges párhuzamot fog felvillantani, amelyre ő saját maga csodálkozott rá nemrégiben, pontosan András közvetítésével, hogy két diktatúrában, két zárt társadalomban él két művész egymástól sok ezer, vagy éppen 10.000 négyzetkilométerre, és valami különlegesen hasonló látásmóddal, megközelítéssel ábrázolják ezt a világot. És az a különleges William művészetében, és tulajdonképpen a kovásznaiéban is, hogy ezen világok letűntével is, hiszen nincs már diktatúra ott, nincs már diktatúra itt, érvényesek ezek az életművek. És az a különleges összekötő kapocs, amely legalábbis számomra, nagyon sokunk számára és összeköti ezt a két életművet, az egyfelől nyilván az abszurdnak és az abszurditásnak a megjelenése ebben a képi világban, de van emellett egy másik nagyon fontos, amit Nóra is említett, hogy ezek nem hűvös, konceptualista, végletekig ironikus művek, sőt, ezek mind a két életmű bármilyen anakronisztikusan hangzik, de tele van szeretettel és költőiséggel. És ez az, azt gondolom, ami megragad mindannyiunkat az első pillanatra, amit a Nóra is mondott, amikor belépünk a terembe és szembesülünk Kentridge művészetével, vagy most éppen egy villanásnyira kovásznaiéval. Úgyhogy igazi, tartalmas, mély beszélgetésétek minden bizonnyal. Én kívánom, hogy fogadják szeretettel ezt a beszélgetést William Kentridge-dzsel, fogadják szeretettel, kiváló művészt és kiváló embert fognak megismerni. Köszönöm.
Köszönjük szépen! A múzeum 1800 utáni gyűjteményének vezetőjét, Geskó Juditot szeretném ide a színpadra hívni, hogy ő is köszöntse önöket.
Jó napot kívánok! Nagyon röviden szólnék néhány szót, nem szeretnék visszaélni a türelmükkel, mivel hogy budapesti járvány engem is elért. Szeretném, hogyha önök is tudnának arról, hogy az elmúlt évtizedekben a Budapesti Szépművészeti Múzeumból 3-szor akarták elvinni a kortárs művészeti gyűjteményi egységet. Évtizedeken keresztül 2 olyan ikonikus kollégával, mint Szilágyi János György, az Antikosztály volt vezetője, és Gerszi Terézzel, a grafikai gyűjtemény vezetője, küzdöttünk azért, hogy egyben kortárs intézmény is maradhassunk. Most, hogy ezt a polémiát véglegesen lezártnak tudhatjuk, engedjék meg, hogy rendkívüli örömömet fejezzem ki, hogy Williamet közöttünk üdvözölhetjük, és az egész múzeum épületét átítató, egy sajátos, új szellemmel megtöltő kiállítását megoszthatjuk önökkel. Nagyon nagy szüksége van a mai Magyarországnak, a mai Budapestnek, a mai múzeumpolitikának arra, hogy elmélyedjen William Kentridge művészetében. András, én és munkatársaim neked külön köszönjük, hogy 25 év óta ennyire hűséges vagy hozzánk, akik közül voltaképpen indultál. 22 éves kisrác voltál, amikor az első katalógusomat lefordítottad, és úgy mentél el Amerikába, hogy a régi képtár németalföldi csendélet katalógusának kéziratát te tetted át magyarról angolra. A repülőjegyet bizony ebből fizetted ki. Nem gyakori, hogy valaki, aki a világszcénában megveti a lábát, hűséges marad. Szántó András ilyen ember. William, András, kérem.
Yes.
Please.
Good.
Ready? Hát mindenek előtt egy pár szót szeretnék magyarul is mondani, mert azt hiszem rendkívüli arrogancia volna, hogyha csak angolul beszélnék egész este. Úgyhogy ha William megengedi, akkor egy pár szót. Tényleg nagy megtisztelés, hogy itt ülhetek ezen a színpadon, és ilyen sok barát és kolléga és családtag. Sőt, azt hiszem még az általános iskolai tanárom is itt van, úgyhogy ott integet, úgyhogy ez tényleg egy rendkívüli nap. Hosszú családi szálak is fűznek ehhez a múzeumhoz, nagyapám fordított könyvet ehhez a múzeumhoz, amint a Judit említette, sok katalógust fordítottam itt még egyetemista koromban, és azt hiszem nem én vagyok egyedül, aki úgy érzi, hogy ez az intézmény mindig azt jelentette, hogy Magyarországnak van egy szerepe Európában és a világban, úgyhogy talán ez a mai nap is erről szól. Akkor kezdjük, vagyis folytassuk angolul. William, where to start? Actually, we're really continuing.
Okay.
Because I think our conversations have now gone on for, I don't know, 10 years. But it's indeed a great pleasure to welcome you as a friend to Budapest. And as you can see, I think there are 800 people in this room. We can't see anybody, so you're completely a dark mass to us. But I think it says a lot about how far your work has traveled and the way it resonates beyond your country and beyond the mainstream of the art world. We're here today apropos of György Kovácsnai, whose work you had a chance to see, obviously, in the last few days. We're not here to dissect his work or to sort of get your opinion of what you think about Kovácsnai, although we'd love to know. And I think everybody in this room who's seen these works will have an opportunity to decide for yourself what the parallels are, what the differences are. Every artist is an autonomous being, so there's always a limit to these parallels, but I think that it offers us an opportunity to have this conversation, and I think it's undoubtable that there are interesting parallels. And to me, probably what it means is that each of you in your own place, in your own time, offered a certain answer to what it means to be an artist in the world. What are some of the choices you can make? What are some of the freedoms you can pursue? And what are some of the achievements that you can have or perhaps not have? So what I'd like to do is explore maybe three themes, and I'll start talking much less, so don't worry, everybody. I'd like to talk a little bit about your work, because not everybody knows it in such detail. Then I'd like to talk a little bit about the role of art in the sort of larger social conversation and politics. And hopefully there'll be time to get your thoughts about the art world, which you observed as an outsider and now very much are living as an insider. Before I did this, I also asked a couple of curators from the museum to email me some questions, and I would like to weave those in, and I'd like to thank all of those as well for their thoughts. And at the very end, about 5:20, 5:30, there will be time for questions from the audience, and that will be it. So, your work. Just a couple of highlights from the last few years. You're absolutely at the top of your game. In the last few years, you were at Documenta. You're about to go to Documenta again. You had exhibitions at the Museum of Modern Art, at the Albertina in Vienna, at the Jeux de Paume in Paris. Meanwhile, in your work as an opera figure in the life of the opera, you did your Magic Flute at Aix and at the La Scala. I was very happy to be by your side on the opening night of The Nose in New York at the Metropolitan Museum, and that was a rather remarkable week, by the way, because at Lincoln Center you had your nose, well, actually Shostakovich's nose, and then further a few blocks down you had the Museum of Modern Art show, which is, I think, nothing quite like that has ever happened again. Next year you were at the Louvre, among other things. Then you got the Kyoto Prize, where, by the way, I think there was a Hungarian mathematician who also received the prize that year, for your contributions not just to the life of art, but to the life of the mind. And if you look at just the last 2 weeks, you had a festival of your work in Johannesburg. You're just coming from Moscow, where you had a performance at the Garage, which is a kind of exhibition space in the former bus depot in a kind of Russian constructivist building, very important institution in Moscow. And you are about to go to Istanbul, and then you'll be at Harvard University doing the prestigious Norton lectures on art and philosophy. So, I'm tired just saying all of this. How do you do this, and what does a day in your life look like?
Well, before I start to describe a day in my life, let me first thank you, Andras, and everyone from this museum, from other institutions who've made this visit possible. When Andras said, let me show you my hometown, Budapest, I said, well, it's part of the world I've never seen. One must remember that throughout all my childhood and growing old, much as you were contained behind the restrictions of the Iron Curtain of Eastern Europe, in South Africa, under apartheid, visas were not given to South Africans to many parts of the world, including all of Eastern Europe, the Soviet Union, China, South America, most of Africa. So there was a tiny geography, and one had to imagine all the places which theoretically existed in geography books, but which were really invisible places, and which Hungary and Budapest was one. So it's an extraordinary pleasure to be in the city and to discover the huge differences between the image of the city I had constructed in my head and the reality that I find before me.
Really, what were the highlights of the image of Budapest in your head, the Platonic version?
Well, you have to remember that the images of cities in Eastern Europe were given by the novels of John le Carré, so Cold War spy novels, by the stories of Evgenia Ginsberg of life in the Gulag, and of Solzhenitsyn, and only much later through writings that had come out of Eastern, people like Milan Kundera from Czechoslovakia, different side of it. So there was a sense that I had never imagined a tree anywhere east of the Iron Curtain. One had imagined every building dark and gray. And one knew it was a fiction, but nonetheless, coming into this city, it's like, well, of course people had parks, and of course there was a river, and there were trees, and there was a real life. But it takes something as obvious as being here to actually recalibrate all the imaginings that one does. I mean, I think there are often very productive misinterpretations or misunderstandings of either books, texts, geographies, histories, but there are also just great gaps, and this is one in which there was such a gap between how the city presents itself and how I had imagined it. So that's an enormous pleasure to be doing it. But when Andras said, well, let me show you my hometown, which I was very interested to do, and then we found an extra connection through the Kovács films, And he said, while you're here, we'll do a conversation at the museum. I thought, well, that's fine. There'll be a small room. There'll be 30 people there. That's fine. There's no anxiety around this. So this is a shock. You know, both a pleasant and an anxious-making shock. It suddenly makes me think, I wish I'd prepared the topics and knew the answers better. But we'll take it as it goes. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you all, and thank you, András. Well, so to get back to your question of what does a day consist of?
Yes, indeed.
It used to consist until this year of driving first all 3 of my children to school, and then my daughter and my son, and then my son, and now he's finished school, so suddenly I'm at a loss. It used to be a very clear structure. Back from driving children to school, breakfast at 8, in the studio by 9, working till supper has to be cooked in the evening. But now that's kind of disappeared. There is, but I will say this though, that there is generally not enough time to do in the studio what I wish I could do in the studio. So there's an anxiety about being out of the studio, which is a little bit, I feel a little bit guilty. This feels like time off, holiday time, here, traveling. I should really be back in the studio working. And I know we're not going to be talking so much about the films that are on exhibition here. But I will say this about seeing the films yesterday of Kovasnai, was that it's not that I felt they were the same as mine or that it was even the same world, but what felt very familiar was kind of the impetus and the essentialness and the emergency of making, that it felt like an emergency, that work has to be made non-stop. There's an urgency.
Like in the mind.
Like in the mind, there's a sense of having to do the work, of the obsessive energy of Kovasnai making all those thousands of paintings to film. As if it was, and so the similarities are ones of not wanting the clarity or the coolness of writing a script or a storyboard, but getting stuck in using the energy of the need to make the film as its starting point. Whether it's in charcoal or in thick oil paint, whether it's a view of Johannesburg or Budapest, that seems secondary to the pressure for making and the excess of making. One thinks when one sees the number of films he made and the amount of work done in that short period, one has a sense of an extraordinary need to be filled through the making of the work. And I'm not certain, although I'd be interested maybe for us to talk further, to what extent that is provoked or promoted by a sense of living in desperate times, whether it's here or whether it's in South Africa in the 1980s, whether the pressure of what was happening in society or not happening is one of the energies that pushes the work to be made.
Well, by the way, I said the mind on purpose because one of the things I learned, and every day I keep learning about interesting parallels between you and Kovasnai, is that both of you had made films about mines. Now, he actually went to work in a mine, and you also made a film about mines.
Yes, I mean, I think that he spent a year down a mine, working as a miner, and I spent a morning down the mine. So that I don't think our experiences were the same, but the extraordinary sense of depth, of the weight of the earth on top. And mining in Johannesburg has a very specific place, in the sense that the cities of Johannesburg and Budapest, in one sense, couldn't be more different. In Budapest, there's a kind of an obviousness for the reason for the city to exist. You've got this extraordinary river. One understands this is a channel of communication. There's a geographic, visible reason for the city's existence. And Johannesburg has a completely invisible raison d'etre. I mean, until 1886, Johannesburg was a piece of farmland, of veld, oxen and cows grazing, and nothing else. And then gold was discovered in 1886. And the whole reason for the city's existence was going further and deeper down under the ground to track this very narrow seam of gold that goes down from Johannesburg through a large tract of country. So that it has a kind of a geologic rather than a geographic raison d'etre. And it also means that the history of Johannesburg is half hidden. When you look at the top, there are very few clues in what you see on the surface for what's happening below. And that became, in a way, a metaphor for understanding what was spoken about or what was not spoken about in the society. the extraordinary raft of legislation that separated life of white people and the life of black people, a sense of a life churning under the ground that corresponded in some way to the unknown other lives outside of the white city, of the politics that was turning under the ground. So when looking at the films, which both have to do with that sense of plunging down into the ground with drills, with things like that, there's both a sense of similarity and a sense of difference in the two films. And in fact, in terms of, if we talk later about the work, it may be worth to come back to Johannesburg, which is a city that erases itself. I mean, I have a sense here there are layers of city, from the Turkish fortifications on the hill to even below that Roman ruins, to the great 19th century, to things that happened in the 50s and 60s, to where you are now, an extraordinary trajectory of history. Where in Johannesburg, essentially, it's a 130-year history, which means that at the age of 56, I've been alive for more than a third of the whole of the city's existence. You'd have to be Methuselah to be that in Budapest. And there's a way in which the city erases itself very directly in Johannesburg, in the sense that the mine dumps, the hills, our Buddha in Johannesburg are essentially artificial hills made of the earth that's been excavated from the ground. And these are all the hills of our childhood. But as the price of gold changes, as it goes up now, suddenly it becomes financially worthwhile to re-excavate the mountains. And so these hills, our very kind of solid landscape in the last 10 years has simply been scraped away. These hills have been flattened, they've disappeared. So there's a way in which it's like erasing with a charcoal eraser, something that seems solid and goes away.
Well, I think the idea of layers is perfect, because I was going to say milestones or kilometer stones, but I wanted to sort of get a sense of how the layers of your creative life had come together. It's a common thing to reconstruct artists' histories, and these are always very artificial. And most artists that I've talked to tend to see their own histories very differently from the way that has been written about. I once met the artists Komar and Melamed, who were very seminal figures in this part of the world. And Komar said to me, he said, one-person exhibitions, it's all a lie. He said, the life is between the pictures, it's not the pictures. So I wanted maybe to ask for your quick version of what were the layers, what were the real turning points, whether they were influences or sort of seminal moments in your own work that you look back on yourself as the main building blocks of how you got to where you are.
Well, to do an autobiographical sketch in a minute.
30 seconds.
In 30 seconds. At university, at high school, I acted in school plays and I made drawings. At university, I studied politics and colonial history, while also doing drawing in the evening at an art school and acting in a theater group at school. And then I had a year full-time at an art school, where I was a painter. And my first failure was as a painter. I mean, it's a failure in the sense I still don't paint. I make drawings, but working with oil paint, with color as the building block, was a miserable failure and would continue to be so. So at a certain point I decided I should not be an artist anymore. I couldn't paint. To be an artist was to work with oil paint on canvas, and I was not going to be able to do that. So I thought then I'd better become an actor. So I stopped being an artist and I went to theater school in Paris for a year, where I had my second failure, where I failed as an actor. It was very clear after 3 weeks in the theater school I should not be an actor. And so I spent the year there learning about theater and movement, and then came back to South Africa thinking, well, I'd failed as an artist, I'd failed as an actor, I would become a filmmaker. And had some years, I think 2 years, as a production designer to learn about filmmaking. And the title was production designer, but the films were all so low budget that the only real activity of the production designer was borrowing my friend's furniture to put on this. And then I realized the one skill I did not really have was as carrier of heavy furniture on my back, and abandoned that. And after much time discovered, whether I liked it or not, I was back in my studio making drawings.
Right.
And started then for a second time thinking of someone making drawings. And then after some years discovered I was working with a puppet theater company, so I was making drawings and animations and puppetry. So the films came back into it and the theater. And then at that point I gave up trying to say what it would be. I had to accept that the work would shift between drawing, filmmaking, filming the drawings, putting the drawings on the back of a stage with actors in front of it, and shifting between the mediums. And it was, but it was, as a result, I kind of, I think of it in a way, I was reduced to being an artist, having had several solid failures of other things. If I'd been slightly less bad as an actor, I may have had a very miserable life as an actor who could only get bad roles.
Yeah. But you know, I want you to keep on with your 30-second version, but I have to stop at this theme of failure because you've come to the right place when it comes to failure. You have a very receptive audience. This is a country that loves the theme of failure.
Well, failure is an important one. I think that every biography can be written.
Our national anthem is about failure. So again, you're in good company here. So what is the role of failure in success?
Well, failures, I can describe the failure. Firstly, I think anyone can describe a successful outcome of whatever it is as being rescued by some fortunate failures along the way that pushed you into this role. I mean, there's a great German term, Torschlusspanik, which doesn't exist in English, but refers to the panic of opportunities closing, possibilities closing. So when I couldn't be a painter, there was a panic over, well, if I'm not a painter, what can I be? When I failed as an actor, that door had slammed shut. There's a panic, all right, what was left? There's less and less and less left. But in the end, you can also see that as doors closing, you're leading into a very specific way. That's the one role of failure. The second to describe in a different way is the freedom that comes when you know you're in a situation of failure. Very often with a drawing, and that's one of the reasons I started doing animation, a drawing starts in a very loose, quick way. So you're using your whole body. There's a movement of your whole body to do the drawing and your whole sweep of your arm. And then as it gradually takes shape, you realize you're using your elbow. And then it just becomes your hand. And you end up just with your knuckles. And what starts as a great openness gets more and more constricted as you get more and more anxious of spoiling what you've already done. If, however, as you're working, it just gets worse and worse and worse and reaches a point of complete failure, then there's a possibility for large gestures, for erasure, for destruction, for reconstruction to happen.
So failure is like a black hole, and on the other side is this whole new universe.
Yeah, or disaster, or the paper gets thrown away, or there's a possibility it gets torn up, and in its tearing up, there are new possibilities that emerge. So there are many cases in which much better work has come out of something that went through a period of real disaster than something that was sort of okay all the way. In the project that we were doing, that I'm working on at the moment, thinking about for showing in Documenta next year, we were offered a very grand room to do the project in by the curator. And there was an antechamber to it. And then at a certain point I said, maybe we could do the big project in the main room, but we could have, because so many different machines and bits of projection and drawings were going to be done for this project, maybe the antechamber could be a room of failures. Everything that didn't work, that work had been done on it, and we could put it in that room to kind of show all the things between the pictures that you see on the wall. And then I realized at a certain point what I was really interested in were all the things that were going to go on, and that just kind of became an insurance. I thought, well, if the big project's a disaster, maybe the room of failures will really be much more interesting. And started thinking. So that was another way in which allowing things to fail, to not have to work in the final piece, became a reassurance and also a new energy into the work. But I think the primary one has to do with letting go of the cautiousness of working towards something being finished. And that was an important reason for animation. When I started the animations...
When was that, by the way?
The animation started... The animation of charcoal drawings, such as the drawings, the films that you've seen in the Renaissance room, Renaissance hall here. Started in 1989. And one of the reasons behind them was wanting to follow the making of a drawing. The animations are very simple. There's a sheet of paper put on the back wall of the studio. There's a camera in the middle of the studio. The drawings range in size, but they're generally 1.5 meters by 1 meter. And instead of doing thousands of different drawings, it's many hundreds of alterations to the same drawing. Each scene is one drawing. And one of the starting point was saying, let me watch a drawing as it is made, going from a white sheet of paper to a complete drawing, to see if I can find the moment where the looseness and the openness of the early gestures becomes more and more constricted and the drawing starts closing down. And then, of course, I discovered if you're constantly changing it, you can keep the looseness and the speed of working all the way through. If the drawing is never finished but is always provisional, if every stage of it is something that's going to be seen for a 25th of a second, then there's no anxiety about people being stuck with the bad drawing, because in the next frame you can rescue it again. It was about endlessly being able to rescue a situation. And only later I started thinking about, well, what is the narrative that can go within this as well? At first it was very much about the process of drawing.
And I want to get back to drawing in a second. There's several questions I have, but if you